All right, today we're jumping into a pretty fiery confrontation that went down in the Australian Senate. We're going to break down a viral YouTube video's take on this whole thing, a moment of high political drama that honestly makes you ask some serious questions about where we draw the line in public debate.
And, it's a question you hear all the time in politics these days. The source we're looking at, a video from Oceania Unfiltered, argues that this whole mess really just comes down to one single, explosive comment. So these are the words right here, the ones that lit the fuse, spoken by Senator Lidia Thorpe. According to the video we're analyzing, this one phrase, well, it's the heart of the entire story. Okay, let's unpack that comment. The video really dedicates its first big chunk to figuring out who was being talked about and, why. So what the source says is that this wasn't even aimed at another politician. Nope. It was aimed at the voters, the people who support Pauline Hanson's One Nation party. We're talking hundreds of thousands of everyday Australians. So what was the reasoning behind it, at least according to the video? Well, it explains that Senator Thorpe basically connected those voters to the racist words that come out of Pauline Hanson's mouth, claiming those words lead to some huge problems in society. And the narrator's reaction in the video? Well, they don't mince words. They just call that whole line of thinking barking mad, saying, look, people are responsible for their own actions, not voters from some other party. And this is where the video really gets to its main point, what it sees as a massive double standard in how politicians and the things they say are treated. Okay, so the video tries to show this hypocrisy with a little thought experiment. It asks you to imagine if Pauline Hanson had said something like that. The video claims there'd be a huge media firestorm. But when Senator Thorpe said it, the source says you heard nothing, or even worse, that she was made out to be the victim. And that whole idea leads the video to start questioning the government's own rules. Pointing out how much we talk about hate speech laws that are supposed to stop people from being nasty to each other. But the video doesn't stop there, it takes it even further. The narrator straight up says that if the roles were reversed, Senator Hanson wouldn't just get some bad press, she'd actually be facing legal charges. That's a pretty heavy claim about things not being balanced. Okay, but what was even being talked about before all this blew up? The video argues that to really get their take on it, you have to know what the original debate was actually about. The video claims this whole thing interrupted a debate on some really serious topics. Apparently, Senator Hanson was talking about things like child safety and Indigenous communities, and whether the Closing the Gap policy is actually working. That's the government's big plan to reduce disadvantage. And a key number Hanson supposedly brought up was this one, a 25% jump in the number of people identifying as Aboriginal in the census. The video contrasts that with an 8% increase in the total population. So the point Hanson was trying to make, according to the source, was pretty straightforward. Government help should be based on who needs it most, regardless of their race. That way it gets to the people who are truly vulnerable. And how did this policy discussion go down? Well, the video describes Senator Thorpe's reaction using this very Australian phrase. It basically means she was making a huge, unnecessary fuss, just constantly heckling and trying to shut the whole debate down. So this brings us to the video's grand finale, its final verdict on the whole situation and what it all means for politics. The video's point is that if you're just a regular person watching this at home, the difference seems pretty stark. It suggests the perception is that one senator was trying to talk about policy while the other was just yelling. And the video doesn't hold back when it comes to judging Senator Thorpe's motives. It claims she uses these big moments not to fix problems, but to get herself in the headlines, all for her own ego, while the important issues get ignored. And to really drive the point home, the source brings in someone you would not expect, Senator Thorpe's own father. The video actually quotes him saying he thinks his daughter has been changed for the worse by all the political power. And here it is, the final zinger from the video. It argues that Senator Thorpe's actions aren't actually hurting her opponents. In fact, it claims her behavior is a political gift that ends up pushing voters right towards senators like Pauline Hanson. So there you have it. We've walked through this one video's very dramatic take on a day in Parliament. It's a story of hypocrisy and a derailed debate, but it leaves you wondering, right? In a world with so much partisan media, how does focusing on just one really fiery story end up shaping what we think is really going on?